Get out of the way, you hippie.
There we go. Yes.
Why do we both have steering wheels?
I don't know. Obese and bearded, ride again. Maybe we're in separate cars.
Oh, are we? Oh, okay. Well, it's not much of a road trip if we're driving separate.
No, it's not much of a road trip at all, really. But anyway, road trip it is across the United States, state by state, actually even more microscopic than that for a little while. We're still on the East Coast, state by state, horror trip through the United States. Septic Shock road trip, me, Clive Davis, and him.
Ron Scott, hello.
In his car, and me and mine. And yeah, so we're hanging about. We're in upstate New York, right?
Still.
Yeah, we're still in upstate New York.
Yeah, we're never going to get out of this.
I'm just looking at the proposed where we off to next. No, I think we might be crossing over into Long Island next.
Which is still New York, of course.
Yeah, well, we're going kind of upstate, and then we're going through the boroughs. I mean, it's a.
And then we're going to New York City, so
it's a cultural house. Oh yeah, we'll be in. I'll tell you exactly. We'll be in the New York area for the next 5-6 episodes, I think.
Hooray!
Yes, your enthusiasm shines through, Ron. Anyway, yes, so specifically for our first film, we're in Sharon Springs, New York, which I think was going by the name. I think it was one of these like hot spring resort towns, right?
Oh, okay.
Something to do with Teddy Roosevelt even might have had a hand in kind of making this place a place to go, a destination back in the day. But by the time today's films came along in 1970, I Drink Your Blood, I think it was a kind of slightly run down, dilapidated place. So the film crew kind of had the run of this place, right? Which I think benefits it because I think you get slightly higher production values than you would normally get because they do have a whole town to take over, right? So that's anyway. It's I Drink Your Blood, directed and written by David Durston, who we covered earlier when we were in Maine. Stigma, right?
Ah, right, okay.
Which was a VD outbreak film, and this is another kind of disease outbreak film. And before I get into the ins and outs of this, I was kind of quite surprised because I got a text message from Ron, because we're recording this same day as we record our traditional I Hate You Valentine's special for our Magic Man and Wood show. Check it out, yo.
For those who don't know, it's a podcast, an audio-only podcast called The Magic Morning Wood, where we also discuss
and it's amazing. Movies. It's life-changing.
Yes, and it's not this like road trip thing. It's just sort of movies that we choose.
Oh,
right?
No, it's totally different. It's not just two old blokes talking about films. It's
very, very different.
It's unbelievable.
And that one, we just recorded a special for the Valentine's Day, which is called I Hate You, Man, where we both try to choose movies that we think the other person will hate.
Yes.
Right?
So we're recording both of them around the same time. So we're ending watching the films around the same time. And I got a text message from Ron saying, well, hang on. Here we go. I'll read it ad verbatim. By the way, I Drink Your Blood would have been a better choice for Valentine's. Is precisely what you wrote.
I believe the pronunciation is ugh. Ugh.
Ah, okay. Ugh. Yes.
Ugh.
So some caveman speak that they speak in Canada.
Or more like a coughing up a hairball. Ugh.
Oh, okay, so I'm judging from that Ron didn't like this film very much.
Not much, no.
Whereas I quite like this film, but we'll get into that. So the basic setup of I Drink Your Blood, which was a big hit back in the day, because the producer Jerry Gross was clever enough to put it on a double bill with an older film called I Eat Your Skin. So, so there was a famous like marquee, I Drink Your Blood, I Eat Your Skin, which, as you can imagine, was really brought the crowds in, right? Like people looking for thrills and drive-ins and stuff. Is
that why the movie was called I Drink Your Blood, was just to match it up with that other movie?
Yeah, I think so.
Because there wasn't really much blood drinking in this movie.
No, it was originally called Phobia, I think, because it is about hydrophobia and rabies, right? But no, it was retitled, but it did great guns. I mean, it's one of those famous, exploitation double bills, that people talk about, like, I drink your blood, I eat your skin. I think the campaign said something like yeah, there we go. Two great blood horrors to rip out your guts. And yeah, I think both of us, Ron, if we had been back in the day driving past a drive-in with that poster, I think we
definitely
gone in to see that, right? Yeah.
Have you seen I Eat Your Skin?
I have, yeah. Not as good as I Drink Your Blood, but I guess maybe for you it might be better. I don't know.
Right.
Fairly atmospheric little made in Florida zombie film, black and white, that one. Who knows? We might even get to it. Yes. So Horace Bones, as played by Indian former boxer and dancer Bhaskar, plays the leader of this group of Satanists, kind of like the shaman, right, who leads this bunch. And he claims that Satan was an acid head, which is news to me. And so him and his group, they travel about taking LSD, and very much in the Manson vibe, right? So they come to this very small town, population 40, called Valley Hills. They kind of rough up a local girl who spies on one of their late night ceremonies out in the woods.
But invited by one of the guys in their group, though.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, she gets roughed up. She goes back home. Grandpa finds out what happened to her, so he goes out there with his shotgun. He's kind of humiliated, knocked around, and force-fed LSD as well. So then the grandson and the sister who was Ruff's brother, I guess, little boy, played by Pete, he decides to get his revenge by shooting a rabid dog, extracting its blood. It has to be said, whatever else you think of this film, this is a fairly ingenious, it's not your typical Manson cult film. This has a fairly ingenious plot, right? A little boy takes rabid dog's blood and injects meat pies.
Yeah, I was thinking it was sort of like it was like the Home Alone of the 70s.
So he injects some meat pies, which they feed to these hippies, and then they basically go mad, become rabid, and they attack some other people. And one of their women gets gang raped by some construction workers who are working on a dam, and then she bites them. So then you have this cool sight of men running around in hard hats with foaming mouths, with machetes, decapitating people, and it's chaos, right? And so it's a rabies film, basically. It's a rabies gore film. First film apparently rated X by the MPAA for violence. The first one rated for violence, not sex or anything like that. Considered, pretty strong meat back in its day. It's one of these originals. It's one of the first of the post Night of the Living Dead, and it's in color. So it's one of the early, I suppose, in that continuum that would go into Last House on the Left and stuff like that. And like Last House on the Left, apparently when it was originally sent out. They you know, different projectionists in different areas would cut the film for their territory as they saw fit. So there was like, as we talked about with Last House on the Left, there were all these weird versions. Some people saw this version, some people saw that version, and now you get the full one on Blu-ray. Yes. So, what obviously you don't like this film, but what was it specifically? Because just to put my cards on the table, I quite enjoy this as a rip-roaring kind of good old-fashioned drive-in exploitation film. I mean, fairly outrageous, fast-moving. It's got some surreal sides with the, you know, the foaming mouth, you know, hard workers running around with machetes. It's kind of, you know, it's really good fun. It's not too, it's just gross enough, you know. So what was it? You didn't get on with this. Why was that, Ron?
I mean, to be honest, I almost don't even remember why I liked it. Why I didn't like it that much, because sort of blocked it out of my. As you're talking, like the way you're explaining it sounds like great. It sounds like it's a movie that I would really enjoy. But for some reason, I just really didn't. It was just a slog for me. I thought it was boring a lot of the times, despite the fact that it sounds the way you've presented it sounds like a really good fun. I just thought it was just boring as shit. It took me a long time to get through it, and I kept pausing and going back to like, oh, okay, I'll watch more. And it just, I don't know, I didn't connect with it. I think
I suppose specifically I'm wondering what the because the implies more than just boring, it as if there was something about it distasteful or.
Well, I mean certainly the violence wasn't distasteful for me or the gore or whatever, but it was.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean it was nothing, but I think it was like I just couldn't get through it. Like it was just not. It was really hard for me to finish this movie because I was just like I don't know. I was trying to remember, like it wasn't that long ago that I watched it, but I almost totally forgotten why I hated it so much. But it's I think the thing that bothered me the most was that it had no rules to it. You know, like it was that there was, I mean, they had rabies, but I didn't understand what was supposed to be, what had happened to them. Like some of them became like cannibal zombie things. Some of them got weapons and started attacking each other with weapons. Some of them just walked around crazy. So I didn't understand what kind of a movie it was supposed to be. Like, what was the, like, what was the rabies supposed to do to them? Because I think they couldn't decide either. It was just like, let's just do this, let's just do that. Like I think there was no through line for me. Like I wanted some rules to the game. Does that make sense?
No, I kind of see what you mean, because yes, like you said, they're not zombies, but they kind of behave in a zombie fashion. Some of them do, and then
some of them do, but then some of them don't, and some of them just have weapons, and they're attacking people with weapons, and they're attacking each other with weapons, and then they're not, and then I don't know. I was like sort of like, well, what's happening? Like what am I supposed to get from this?
I thought they were a bit more of a precursor to the crazy people in Giorgio Romero's The Crazies, or later on 28 Years Later, right? Rather than zombies,
right.
The rabies is the version of I suppose the rage virus, right?
Right.
Yeah. Later. It's just driven them kind of insane.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. There was just something about it that just bothered me. It wasn't. I mean, of course, I have no problems with the gore, the violence, or the content, or whatever. Right. It was just, I don't know. I just found it kind of just not that inspired or interesting. I think. Yeah.
While watching it, I was wondering, was it the rat eating? Was it the rat eating you didn't like?
No, I mean, there's nothing that grossed me out. It was just. I just thought it was kind of like a. It was just a boring and the way you put it, like what you just said as the storyline sounds like a great movie, and I wish it was that movie, but it was just sort of like there was a lot of like times of them just running around holding weapons and I know what so I just remembered. Here's the thing that bothered me most about this movie was the goddamn mother effing soundtrack of this movie. drove
Oh,
me fucking crazy of this
I
movie.
won
That's what it was.
Clay Pits. Yes, it's a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
noodly electronic
yes.
and sometimes gets very
It
loud.
just, it just came to me. I literally had to watch this. I watched it on my computer. I had to watch it at like 40% volume most of the time because and it's not even a soundtrack. It's literally just like someone's alarm that is just put on, and yes, I understand how that would sort of like ramp up the tension and stuff.
Yes,
But
yes.
I just found it just really irritating. And I think that made it harder to get through because it was like, oh, there's a fucking alarm again, right? So
There's one
yeah.
scene in particular where they really turn it up, right? And it's
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
So
yes.
I think that's what it just came back to me. I think that's what the was like was specifically the soundtrack, which made it even more difficult to get through, which was so.
One connection which I think you probably did enjoy though is going back a few months when I was unable to attend our aforementioned Magic Morning Wood Show. Once again, check it out, yo. So I'm saying it in that way to appeal to the kids. You see. Was you did a brief little solo chat on David Cronenberg's Shivers. And this, of course, shares a cast member in the shape of Lynn Lowry, who a very striking-looking young woman used to great effect in Shivers, I think, and she's in here as well, right? She plays a mute in this.
Oh, that girl, okay,
yeah.
I didn't actually get the connection, so
became a minor kind of cult because she's a very beautiful woman, right? And not averse to taking her clothes off from time to time as well. But she was in a few. Actually, she's in the Crazies as well, isn't she? And she turned up in a few interesting titles.
Right.
She's in this. I think this might be her first film, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Also, I think to be honest, what's his name? Bhaskar kind of irritated me a little bit.
He's borderline irritating. I'll agree.
Like I found him real irritating to watch. He really takes himself really seriously in this movie. Like I could tell that he thinks he's great in this movie. Like I almost could hear him like swaggering around, like boasting, like off camera, like while the camera was not rolling. Like I don't know. I got the impression that his character was not that far away from his real personality. Like, so I could be wrong, but something about him just really kind of just irritated me to watch him.
I think it must have taken the wind out of his sails because there's two commentaries. I don't know if you got to hear to listen.
I didn't know.
There's one with David Durst and Bhaskar, which is actually quite interesting and quite informative, like the one David Durst did for Stigma. Right? Quite a fun little. If you're interested in low budget filmmaking, it's some stories.
Right.
But he doesn't mention this and I didn't know this, but the other commentary track with a couple of the cast members mentioned that Bhaskar ended up in a wheelchair. He broke his spine or something, and he was a dancer as well, right? That was his thing. So maybe that took the wind out of his sails a bit because they do tell stories actually, and this fits in a bit more to your notion of what he might have been like back in the day when they filmed this. Apparently, when the cameras weren't rolling, he was like trying to hypnotize locals. It was like the example they gave, he was like trying to hypnotize some young man into like, you don't love your parents, you hate your parents, or something like that. So yes, he does seem like he might have been a bit of a swaggering dick in the day.
I got that impression. Yeah,
but then again, there's something slightly unusual. You don't expect a 1970 drive-in film to have a kind of Indian.
I was. Usual. It was nice to see that someone of like a minority in a large role and in a
even though it's not really sympathetic. I mean, you got a bunch of white kids being led astray by an Indian and his Asian like dragon lady sidekick.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that kind of just irritated me about this movie is that it just seems like every horror movie in the early 70s is like a Manson family ripoff. Like it's like they're so they just couldn't get over this.
Yeah.
It's like everything
All
is
you know, Ron, we'll be
is
watching a lot more.
yeah, I know, but I was like, is this another Manson family ripoff? Like another cult that following some, charismatic guy who makes his followers kill people? I don't know. It's like, oh, like
But
find something
done with
else.
that.
There was it was a real hang up of the early 70s, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's big news, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And manna from heaven for exploitation filmmakers, right?
Right. Yeah.
David
And
Wilson tells quite a good story about the other big inspiration for this film. I tried to track it down if I could find any news report, but I couldn't find any reference to it. Was he says at the time he read some report in the newspaper or watched a documentary or something about in Iraq there was like a town which had been attacked by wolves or something, and all the children who were bitten ended up getting rabies. This whole town.
oh, really? Okay.
So apparently it's a mixture of, make a film to compete with Night of the Living Dead, Manson, and this obscure Iraqi rabies story is
Right.
apparently the. I did want to mention that the woman who does play the kind of dragon lady character who ends up again a very then contemporary thing. She sets herself on fire, right? Just like the famous that monk who did it to protest the Vietnam War, right?
Right.
And, yeah, her name is Jadine Wong, and they keep saying in the commentaries, and I've heard it before as well, she was the daughter of famous actress Anna May Wong. She's not the daughter or sister of Anna May Wong, not connected at all. But she was apparently quite a big deal once upon a time. She was a stand-up comedian, and of all people, looking her up just briefly, I found like someone giving her props. Ben Stiller.
Oh, really?
Of all, because I think the connection was maybe she might have done like
She was in Little Fuckers, it looks like.
Yeah, and I think she might have been like she might have done the Borscht Belt kind of circuit and stuff, being a stand-up comedian. So I think
she was in casting, I think. So I think she was
right.
She worked on that side of things, and she was in the Ben Stiller movie. Yeah.
Apparently Barbara Streisand opened to her at some point, and then later on it was Ben. So there's like a continuum in this kind of theatre tradition, comedy tradition. So Ben Stiller would have known her from that world, I guess. So yeah, so I didn't expect to find because to me she was just, oh yeah, she's that chick who sets herself on fire and I Drink Your Blood. But apparently
well, she was in The King and I.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so she's like she's one of those. It's funny actually listening to the commentary as well. With these actors who are in a couple of other films and you've never heard of them ever since, you realize they do have that other side, and they all talk about, oh yes, but for instance, the black guy in I Drink Your Blood, the one who goes around with the machete, and apparently he was like a big time theater actor. Like,
oh, was he?
You moved to those circles, you would have known him, and a lot of these people apparently, they because they all came from New York, they all came from that scene, and they went upstate to film it, and they just had a few locals pad out some of the smaller roles or whatever. But but these are all New York like theatre people, and Dave Durston as well was very enmeshed in that world and stuff. So there you go. Obviously, you're not a big fan of I Drink Your Blood.
Yeah, I mean, again, maybe I was just in a bad mood and I watched it. It could have been. I certainly the soundtrack sort of put me in a bad mood. I think maybe if I watched it with the sound way down, maybe I can get through it a little better. I don't know. It just felt like a bit of a slog for me, this one. So.
Okay. It is a fan favorite, I have to admit, and curious as well. It is one of those handful of those iconic 70s, 80s kind of horror films that has not been remade, to my knowledge. Not even like like a kind of knockoff, unofficial, or I can't think of any other hippies eat rabies meat pies and go mad films. And I
thought maybe like Home Alone was like a family remake of this movie, right? So
not enough rabies.
Kid gets revenge on bad adults.
Yeah, so there we go. There's I think this film would make quite a fun remake. It's something you could. It's got that kind of.
Right.
I still think I like because I remember before I even saw this movie, I remember reading the plot synopsis and thinking, oh, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Meat pies injected with rabies.
In theory, this should have been great. It's hard for me to put my finger on why it was not super enjoyable for me, but it was just,
I mean, I appreciate you. I appreciate your honesty, Ron. That's that's why.
I certainly would. In theory, I should have liked this movie. I'm a little surprised I didn't like it too. So
right.
Yeah.
So so we drive on over now to Rye, New York, which is the location for our next film, which has a slightly tangled history. It was a little bit late in the day. I managed to find a link to a documentary about the making of this film. You probably didn't have time to watch it, did you?
No, I was still at work, so.
Oh, okay. I would recommend you watch it, Ron, even if it's not for this, because I think you might enjoy it more than the film itself.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll see. I don't know. This could go either way because I've seen this film a couple of times before, and I came down on a different side of the fence each time, and this time. So anyway, so the film under review is Spookies, which started life in 1984 as a film called Twisted Souls and eventually came out in '86 as Spookies. Had you seen this before, by any chance?
No, I don't think I had. No.
Okay.
I remember seeing the VHS cover at my local video store, so I think it was there to rent, but I think I never got around to renting it though. So.
Right. Yeah. No, this would have been a VHS rental for me back in the day as well, and I remember the first time I saw it, really hating it, and then watching it again and being more or less the review in my book, Spinegrinder, is kind of positive, even though it is a hot mess of a film. There's no doubt about that. But I suppose it depends on your mood, and because so the deal with this film is it started life as a film directed by Thomas Duran and Brendan Faulkner called Twisted Souls. And it was basically a bunch of people go to a haunted house film and get chased by monsters. Rather surprisingly good effects monsters as well, right? I think that's the best thing about this film is including Jennifer Aspinall, who later went on to work on Street Trash, which is something we might get to when we get to New Jersey.
Great.
I can tell you're looking forward to that. I still can't believe
I have stories about Street Trash, so.
I still can't believe you don't like Street Trash. Anyway, we'll get. Maybe it turns out you do like it after all.
Maybe I do. Maybe I need to revisit it. So yeah. So.
Yes, and then at some point, the footage was handed over to a woman called Jeannie Joseph, who credited herself as Eugene Joseph, and the film was kind of pulled apart and they retained all the best FX stuff and then filmed this new footage about he seems to be, is it an aging vampire in love with a bride, a young beautiful bride?
I think he's a sorcerer.
Okay. But she wants nothing to do with him, and he also has like a dog or wolf boy,
wolf or goblin boy sidekick thing, So that was all
little boy.
That was all added in later.
Yes, this is the added stuff.
Okay.
All the stuff, and also he has a vampire kid, and yes, and the stuff with the little boy who we think is going to be the protagonist is a runaway little boy Billy. At the beginning, he's 13 years old. And he ends up getting buried alive, right? That's not in the original cut.
Okay.
So that was all added, I guess, to make sense. I mean, I don't know. The source footage is difficult to tell because I don't know the stuff that was missing. But the source film, even though it doesn't seem that great either, apart from the effects, doesn't seem like it didn't make. It made less sense than the end product. Let's put it that way.
It would have made sense without it. Yes.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense without it. So.
Yes. So it's a mess of a film, and we'll get to individual things whether we liked or disliked or. But what did you make of Spookies?
Well. Now that you've said that, it actually put a lot more context to it because it was a bit of a head scratcher for me. Like I had a little more goodwill towards it than I had towards I Drink Your Blood. I think I enjoyed parts of it. I mean, it was, yeah, it's in no way, shape, or form a good movie.
Right.
It's and I remember thinking basically it was just like a hodgepodge of like, let's just take a whole bunch of shit and throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
It seems to be, and like the analogy I was sort of imagining the backstory of this movie was that they went to like a Halloween costume store, bought a bunch of costumes that had no connection to each other, and said, okay, this one's in that room, this one's in that room, this one's in that room, and then just sort of like do random monsters. Because that was, I mean, it was sort of connect the I guess the biggest problem I had with the movie, which is connected to the I Drink Your Blood, which is that I didn't understand the rules of this of this world, right? Which is that you know, I didn't mind like the bad acting or the terrible jokes from the really bad comedian guy, or like the fact that it was like a what's that?
The ventriloquist.
Yeah, ventriloquist with this puppet and stuff. Like I don't know what I was like, okay,
I have to admit, he's not funny, but I quite liked him. I don't know why. There was something quite likable about him.
It was really like they really tried hard to put like a comic relief guy in there, right?
He seemed to be enjoying himself, I'd say.
Yeah, he was having fun. Yeah. And like and of course they had like random people. I couldn't, like, one thing I couldn't understand why these people were together. Like who were they to each other? Like there was one like older couple and like they were fighting. It was like, how do they even know it? Like who are they? Like and they were ostensibly looking for a boy, but not like their son, or was it someone's son? I had no idea who they were, why they were there. But after a while, I sort of gave up caring, right? It was just sort of like this went on for the ride, right?
Why is this old man hanging out with a juvenile delinquent from Brooklyn?
And a greaser.
Who's dressed like he's in Flashdance or something. Like I don't even know.
I love that shirt, man. It was like he's right out of like Michael Jackson's Thriller video or something like that.
But he's like, everything's like, that's fucking stupid. Oh, how scary. Oh, fuck. And he's just like such a chip on his shoulder. And then, for some reason, his dad has tagged along or something. Like,
but it's not his dad, because they're like fighting with each other. So it's like this older married couple, and then they've got this other one with this like British bitch who is like chain smoking British
one, right?
Like British bitch who hates everything, and her sort of like neurotic husband, and then there's
you have to wonder how did they meet? Like what's going on there?
And then you've got this like comic relief guy, and you've no idea how they know each other or why they're even there at the same time. And then there's one other person, another girl who gets turned into basically a deadite, almost to me. Like it was straight out of Evil Dead, right down to the point of using like "join us." They even used like the Evil Dead line for it. So there's a lot of that. So
it's like they went to the nearest like summer stock company with a big net and just
that's exactly it, right? You come over. Which of my friends are available on Saturday to do a movie? And here's a couple rubber masks. Okay, let's just tie it all together as loosely as we can, and there's our movie, right? I think. But now that I know that it's actually two movies linked together, that makes even more sense, right? So it's. But after a while, I sort of gave up caring about why they were there or how they knew each other, and they just sort of went along for the ride, and it was fun. There were some fun moments.
I think you're being slightly unfair in terms of I think the effects were genuinely quite good.
No. I don't mean to downplay I think that, I mean, a lot of it was sort of like guy in a rubber mask, right? But there was some good things, which are like it was
original footage. It's like some of that stuff is really quite good. The mud monsters. We've got to mention the farting
mud monsters. Yes.
They're fun. Who dissolve?
Which I heard apparently the directors apparently the producers made them add the farting noises, and that the directors apparently hated it or something.
No, that didn't go down well. But that's the least of the films. If you watch the documentary "Twisted Tale: The Unmaking of Spookies," it's quite an entertaining watch, but it does suffer. It doesn't suffer, but the people from it. I understand this film was taken away from them. They're very bitter about it, but I think it slightly clouded their judgment. Like the way they talk about like the original film, as if it was like it would have been great if they just let it alone. And I'm like, no. It still would have been pretty bad. It's probably is worse now because and to your point, it has, even if it originally did have, it has no internal logic anymore. Like it's
there's nothing
thrown to the four corners, right? It doesn't make any sense. I remember as well the UK release on the Vipco label made kind of based everything about those mud monsters as well. I remember specifically the video cover said "Spookies, you can smell them coming," and it had a picture of the mud monsters, and that's certainly why I would have rented it back in the day.
Right, yeah.
And it's a shame they're only in it for like a couple of minutes. I could have watched an entire film about the farting mud monsters, right? That would have been fun. And that's what I thought I was getting when I first rented it, because they're all over the box art. And but alas, they're only in it for a few minutes.
Right. Yeah. I like the actual like cover that they went with. I'll show a picture of it here. Just like random people. It looks like I don't know, like Star Wars or something. I don't know what's happening here with this person. I don't even know who that is. And it says here a night of unrelenting terror.
Right.
And actually, it's over here, won a Delirium in Science Fiction and Fantasy Film Festival.
There we go.
Winner of a festival, right? So hey, good for them. I can't imagine how that happened, but
that poster as well, though, is very much I think what they have in mind nowadays, the aesthetic of things like Stranger Things, for example, right? It's very 80s kind of neon kind of especially now when you can see a lot of these films like in HD and stuff. You really get what's inspiring, things of today, like Stranger Things.
Yeah,
is very
the nostalgia of today. Yeah.
So,
but I mean, to be honest, once you get past that, I mean, the guy who I frequently, I'm sort of sad to hear that the sorcerer was like a late addition, because he was really my least favorite part of this movie, which was that like I didn't really understand why they even had character at all, and like he was pretty bad. Like he kept like I couldn't tell, was he supposed to be German or was he like it was a really poor accent sometimes, and I was like, so he's a sorcerer. He's trying to resurrect his bride, but his bride doesn't like him, and he's using them. He's like sucking their life force. I think the idea is that he's supposed to be killing them to take their life force to resurrect her. But it was a bit of a mess. But anyway, I think that when you get past that, the creatures themselves were fun individually.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So I think I like the tree woman. A
spider woman as well.
The spider woman. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. The spider woman. And a lot of the monsters were fun. It was quite well done. So
I'm wondering if it's in its original form, it might have certainly would have played out. It can't be any worse, I don't think.
Right.
So it does seem a bit of a harsh job. But I think if you're a horror fan, and specifically if you like this 80s period, I think it is probably worth a look once, just for the creature effects, actually, because they are pretty good. And the mud monsters, I like the mud monsters, and you'll probably get a little, if you're into this era, you'd certainly get a bit of a nostalgic contact high off it, right?
Yeah.
But
I really liked. I really like the this one, the little like lizard. I don't know. It was like
it had a tail and
like a tail thing. I like that thing, and I thought that was quite fun. That guy, and then I thought I enjoyed once I sort of gave up on trying to understand the story. I kind of I enjoyed the creature ride. Yeah. So
right. And it's a good example as well of we spoke a little bit way back when we were in New Hampshire and we did Raiders of the Living Dead as well. It's always kind of interesting to see how sometimes when you're at the low budget end of the spectrum, footage can be taken away from you and traded,
and then just
turned into something
Turn into something completely
that
different. Yeah.
horrifies the original filmmaker, right? And in that case as well, similarly, I think the original Dying Day wasn't a great film, but it was certainly slightly more witty and,
Right.
and had something to it.
Cohesive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That's a good
thing.
word.
I mean, at least when you have I think that it definitely hurts it when you're trying to weave it into something else, because I mean, that's the idea, is that you're trying to make it fit into something else that it's not. And so then that's where you lose the logic, right? So I think it doesn't always work that way. So I think it's usually, even though if the original is not that great, at least it had a singular vision and like a purpose to it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah, exactly. Other connection to Street Trash as well is the director of Street Trash, Jim Moreau, who would go on to become a very famous Steadicam operator. I think he worked on Terminator 2, for example. He did a bit of Steadicam work here, and the cinematographer Ken Kelch was one of Abel Ferrara's DPs of choice as well. Yeah, so I think we're done, right?
And that's it for Upstate New York.
For this, where did I say we're going next? Long Island, is it? I think we're going to Long Island next.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we going to swim there, or is there a bridge?
I did look at, believe it or not, I did actually try and take this seriously, and I tried to find a route where you didn't double back on yourself, and so I think it's making sense. If anyone wants to write in and say that that's either correct or if I fucked up, please do so. Just, so we know someone's out there. Is anybody there?
Anybody watching us?
Hello. Anyway, until then.
Okay.
Off in our weird double steering wheeled car. I'm surprised we don't get into accidents, Ron. Here we go.
No, let's go this way. No, this way. No.
And I'll be playing a bit of garage rock from the area. Right.
Okay, we play some Pro Jam.
Fuck you, Ron. And no one will understand that reference because that's the other show we do.
That's the other show. It's a show, right? So.
Never listen to Pearl Jam, kids. Off we go. Listen to this instead.